Stars, what if December 28th came down to an injury, either by accident or by someone's hand? And I was certainly listening to people saying, oh, she's unalived. Oh, she's in a coma, needing another operation in the fall. I was really relieved to see her walking around and seeming fine, if frail, but looking great relative to what we think she's been going through. Part of this journey has been hearing that William isn't always such a nice, peaceful, charming guy. We've certainly heard a description of William's outbursts in Harry's book Spare. Harry suffers from jealousy issues from William, and the title of his book makes that clear. Harry also had a lot of anger over the way Meghan was treated by William. So perhaps his account of the fight in the book might be enhanced, but even if it were true, having a fight with your brother is a long way from DV to the point of landing somebody in a coma. The reports of Will and Kate having loud arguments and throwing pillows at one another doesn't prove anything. What couple, especially with 3 young children, doesn't argue, especially if they're under, the microscope and people are potentially being paid off for tips and juicy stories, and especially if you have a stepmother, right? You think about all the fairy tale stepmothers who are evil, dastardly, up to something, trying to give you an apple that might be tainted. Then you give that stepmother access to the toxic British media and you get what you get. Many folks question the cancer diagnosis at all. Past, present, preventative, all of it. They think it's just a defense to any questions and skepticism about the 6-month absence. But in as much as the fit eating theories might have weight, it is possible that William has been trying to protect Kate's privacy the whole time. Is there substance to the idea that William has been unkind and maybe a bit physical? The idea of William hurting her came from stories over the years about his temper, and it's likely that they've been downplayed to protect the heir so that you're not going to actually find proof. Think of how many decades a Harvey Weinstein or people in certain churches were allowed to coast because there was, quote, no proof, even if there were witnesses, even if there were incidents and medical reports. It was still called a fake story, fake news, even when there was proof. Royal biographer Robert Jobson mentions the temper in his book William at 40, which was written to flatter him. It also might be silly to put the burden of proof on Harry and Meghan. Why do they have to substantiate William's temper while Kate has been missing? Or why do they have to speak to William and Kate's relationship at all, for that matter? They have their birth families all around them. Ask them. When Harry and Meghan actually do talk about their interactions with William, which they don't often do, they are very matter-of-fact about it. The finger in the face, the physical fight. It's up to us to draw our own conclusions. But there have been numerous stories and actual articles about William and Kate getting into heated arguments in which they throw things at each other. But for the sake of discussion, there have been actual written articles and excerpts that describe William's temper, right? Both from royal biographers and royal rota journalists. Quote, "He has proved no sweet William when roused," writes Lacey. "In the years after her 2005 marriage to Prince Charles, Camilla recounted to members of her own family and close friends her surprise at discovering this unexpected side to Prince Charming. "That boy's got a temper!" Charles's wife was horrified at the ranting and raving that William unleashed on occasion against her husband in her presence. The rows were shattering by Camilla's account in the early days, with William doing the shouting and Charles submitting meekly on the receiving end. As she described it, William held nothing back. "It was a wrath," suggests Lacey, commensurate with William's sense of himself as future king. To the profound embarrassment of William, then studying at Eton College, his mother had appeared on national television discussing the breakdown of her marriage to his father and her affair with James Hewitt. According to a friend, the healer, Simone Simmons, Diana soon felt the full force. "All hell broke loose," Diana told Simmons. "He started shouting and crying, and when she tried to put her arms around him, he shoved her away." Diana was getting a taste of how William's intensity could lead to his notorious rages. The following day, he apologized to his mother for his temper with a small bunch of flowers. Robert Lacey, historian and author of Battle of Brothers. Then, according to the Daily Mail, there is often talk of William's short temper, especially when it comes to rowing with his wife. But a royal author has now explained that Prince William's impatience can make him difficult to work with at times. Robert Jobson, author of Our King, Charles III, the Man and the Monarch Revealed, cites a senior royal household figure as saying, "He can be difficult. He is a driven person, and that can make him impatient," the source says, adding that compared to his son, King Charles possesses more patience, and that can make William short-tempered when dealing with Charles. The insider adds, "The boss, Charles, has a temper too, but it does not go on and on. He can get frustrated and flare up, and then in an instant it is forgotten about. With William it is rarely forgotten." Robert Jobson, author of Our King, Charles III, the Man and the Monarch Revealed, royal editor of the Evening Standard. He wrote, "William's fiery temper can blow up at any time, usually when he's frustrated or when it comes to issues regarding his family. Even senior members of his circle will check which way the wind is blowing before becoming too self-assured in his presence or raising problematic issues that might be better addressed at another time." Other insiders confide that William can be an emotional character who is, on occasion, difficult to handle. Robert Jobson, author of William at 40, The Making of a Modern Monarch, royal editor of the Evening Standard. The Daily Express's royal correspondent Richard Palmer has also substantiated these claims, as he said on the Royal Roundup in May that William does have a temper behind the scenes sometimes, but added that the heir to the throne has broad shoulders and does take on criticism. Richard Palmer, the Daily Express's royal correspondent, the former members of staff told Mr. Lowe he had strong opinions. He also had a proper temper on him, which was quite fun. He would rarely direct it at the individual. It would be about something, and he would lose his temper. He would throw something. He would go from 0 to 60 in a flash, and then back down again. Valentine Lowe, the Times' royal correspondent, on rows with Kate. They have terrible rows where they throw things at each other. Kate might seem to be a very calm person, and William also, but it's not always true, because the big stress for William and Kate is that they're constantly surrounded by palace aides. It's like a Jane Austen novel. However, the arguments, as violent as they sound, appear to be short-lived, with the couple making up quickly so as not to stir things up. "Kate is very much the calm one," Quinn writes. William is the one who's a bit hot-headed. We see an example of that in Harry's book. But Kate is very level-headed. She's the one who will pour oil on troubled waters and go, let's not stir things up. Tom Quinn, author of Gilded Youth, an intimate history of growing up in the royal family. It is important to remember that context is imperative to understanding. Obfuscation isn't cute. This is an important message as readers may be involved in DV relationships. Normalizing the adults throwing items at one's partner during an argument is not comparable to children playing. Context is crucial. Throwing items at your partner during conflict is domestic violence. Throwing things when angry, breaking things when angry, and slamming doors when angry are all serious signs that an anger management program might be needed to help your spouse learn how to manage their anger in a way that doesn't involve violence. Right? People who cannot control their temper throw things at other people. We learn not to throw things at other people when we are children. Maybe these people have never worked in politics or entertainment. Would it be okay for an employer to throw a pillow? Would it be okay for an employer to throw a pillow at an employee if they were angry? Well, apparently Kate threw pillows as well. As far as we know, she hasn't beaten on William. If someone inflicts violence against you and you react with equal and opposite force, reasonable force, to protect yourself, that is not being the abuser. It is a victim enacting their legal right to self-defense. Interestingly, and perhaps unknowingly, you are taking the stance of an abuser with your Darvo response by accusing an alleged DV victim as a domestic abuser while minimizing the grave transgression of the actual domestic abuser. I sincerely hope that you haven't internalized this twisted idea of who the actual domestic violence perpetrator is in such a situation, because the dynamics and the role of the perp and the victim in a DV situation are not comparable. Wow. This is a very interesting discussion, right? A lot of people have been asking for the last 6 months, what if William did hurt her? Right? We don't know that to be the case. We have seen and heard this discussion of rows and throwing pillows, but it's not far-fetched seeing the way that she has been treated in public, how she has been spoken to in public, and honestly, the looks and expressions she has on her face speaking to him and other people, including Meghan. You know, people know how to express their displeasure and to make it seem likely that they will do something more than talk. But here's a couple of accounts of William's violent nature. Harry recounts William's violent attack against him. Harry recounts William's violent attack against him in his book Spare. He, William, set down the water, called me another name, then came at me. It all happened so fast, so very fast. He grabbed me by the collar, ripping my necklace, and he knocked me to the ground. I landed on the dog's bowl, which cracked under my back, the pieces cutting into me. I lay there for a moment, dazed, then got to my feet and told him to get out. So we have accounts from a victim and witnesses as to William's propensity towards violence, from the interpersonal reactions we've witnessed and the surrounding oddities, not to mention the intrinsic power imbalance and rumors of Willie's infidelity. DV seems highly likely. However, differentials as to how Kate received blunt force trauma to her occipital region, if we believe that hypothesis, if we believe that theory, are various, potentially multifactorial and speculative only. Certainly she may have fainted because of fit eating, for example, and sustained an injury. This is not Harry and Meghan's narrative, and they have never called William a psychopath. They had no idea where Kate was all this time, and the royal rota bragged about how excluded and in the dark Harry and Meghan were. There have been stories about William's temper for years, and it has nothing to do with Harry and Meghan far away for years in a totally different country. People seem to be putting a lot of stock into proving all of the Kate is missing theories wrong by Kate's appearance yesterday. And I was certainly relieved, and I believed the appearance, and then I started watching things and different content and different glitches, and oh my gosh. Right? We live in a world of special effects, practical effects, body doubles, and you stars are listening to me as I'm literally in the middle of trying to digest this newish information and these newish analyses of what I saw and believed yesterday. Oh, I'm just not prepared to be suckered again. But when you rewatch it through that lens, having that idea in your mind, oh my gosh. Right? So, I think it's a worthy discussion. DV, rage incidents. How many times have we heard that William was incandescent with rage, right? What is that? Like he's a light bulb, right? Whatever the abdominal surgery was, whatever the story is with cancer, right? Even the idea of dragging a sick and recovering woman out to wear high heels and trot around and stand there during this birthday ceremony, it's a lot. But this is the same family that trotted Kate out on the very cusp of her giving birth 3 times to put on a dress and heels and take photos. I empathize with Kate having to go along to get along, but I don't know. If William hurt her, would she have gotten all the settlement and fancy estate and cash that she wanted? If she were able to secure a load of money and titles for her family out of the crown, would she have done so by this point? Would she have gotten land holdings and a few other things prior to William becoming king? I honestly don't know. If you were to threaten anyone in that family with revealing what happened or what you know, I would think that they would, shall we say, solve the problem. We've seen them do it before. Financially, socially, and forever. Is Kate being a dumbass by hanging around, or is she a Machiavellian master? Is her mom a dumbass for having her daughter hang around, or is her mom a Machiavellian master? The lesser title that Kate received while she was disappeared wasn't ish, right? It wasn't like a title, it wasn't a peerage or non-peerage title for her parents. So what was the, I guess, band-aid, or the, when Kobe Bryant cheated that one time and his wife Vanessa got the big ring and I'm sure other things to quiet the stormy waters of their marriage, right? That comes to mind as an example of a kind of apology. Has there been an apology issued or made or arranged, or are we guilty of seeing what we want to see when it comes to Kate Middleton's appearance at Trooping the Color on Saturday? But, again, this is a very raw and rambling post, just contemplating the DV rumors and the rough and tumble reputation of Prince William as we, incorporate what we saw yesterday into our thoughts over the last 6 months and think about what's to come in the next 6 months, or when he is coronated as King of the UK. So let me know what you think, stars.